All right, welcome to the documentary on the Dear John letter writer. I'm probably going to be in a better mood than the one on the Lady Lacking Logic because this is actually someone that I still like, even though I will concede of their romantic stupidity. So, a little bit of background. She was a user who came on my channel maybe two or three times without me really paying attention. I just know that at one point or another in the latter part of 2019, when the last maybe 2 months of the year, last 3 months, she decided to start showing up regularly. She was a nice person to see in my comment section and whatnot. And this was a pattern of behavior that was replicated earlier in the year by another individual I mentioned before, who I didn't have as long of an interaction with. It was a chick that was from that same year and had done the same pattern of behavior. And it just feels like a deja vu because that same person I was convinced liked me, and got a surprise, but not in a good way, because surprises usually are never in that capacity when it comes to this romance stuff. But that's besides the point. So we start speaking on Discord, a website I hate, and I'll explain the separate upload why that's the case. So while speaking on Discord, we have a call where she's drunk, and I don't care. We have another one, and it's basically just kind of a formal, like, oh, this is how I sound. We have a second one, which is 3 hours in length, and I mean, I couldn't summarize that thing if I wanted to. Basically, the gist of it is I started off by talking about some recent non-related to her stuff that, because they ask, how are you doing? Like, oh, this kind of is bothering me. She empathizes with it. And let me just say this. I believe it was 6 or 7 voice calls I had with her in total before the annexation. She was just 10 times better to speak to than the Lady Lacking Logic, because, and I've tried to make this comparison before, with the Lady Lacking Logic, if you tried to speak to her, she would do this thing where if you complained about what someone said or did, it was like a weird, almost like pseudo adversarial thing. So basically you could say to her, oh man, this guy, I don't know, pushed me over when I was walking down the street, and she would go, oh, maybe the guy was in a bad mood. You shouldn't get so upset about that guy doing that. But before she takes that person's side or tries to empathize with this person who did something that was ridiculous, you randomly push someone, she'll go, oh, where did he push you? Were you looking? Are you hurt? Just a whole bunch of questions. And she didn't do that. When you told her something referring to the Dear John letter writer, she would listen to what you said, give a comment about it, and just hear you out. It was just so nice to go back to that, because, as I said before, for all of the latter part of 2018 and the halfway mark of last year, the only chick I was talking to that I actually had any kind of romantic interest in was the Lady Lacking Logic. And I said before, that was an experiment to see how long I could last talking to a broad that I didn't approach, which was 11 months. And she still was dingbat enough to say after the interaction was over, I believe you would prematurely cut off any woman who was interested. It's like, you just spoke to me for 11 months. And you believe I would prematurely cut off a broad. It's like, oh, what was the last year? Okay, whatever. So, it was just a step up in pretty much every way. I saw her image, our images up close. They were nice. But during this 3-hour call, I expressed romantic interest. And when I expressed this, she's very shocked by it, because she's spoken disparagingly of herself. She's talked about her past with mental health issues. And I just said, look, I accept the fact that people have backgrounds, but if they are nonviolent, if they are actively aware of the fact that these things are bad, getting drunk and uh, trying to be so, just if they're making an attempt to fight against whatever demons that they think they have, I don't really see how that I should count them out over that. This is why I said a lot of times when you speak to these chicks, you end up accepting them for what they are, and they end up sticking their middle finger in your face for what you are. Um, but anyway, she asked me, what do I like about her? And I think it was three things. I said that I like that she worked because, look, my only chick I ever dated, and I mentioned this on Patreon, was the biggest gold digger in U.S. history. Um, I mentioned two other things, which was that we had a similar interest in politics, and that she was, I found her physically attractive, and also it was. I don't believe I wrote it. Yeah, I didn't write it. It was in the call, but she tried to refute one of the points. And I said, look, you can feel as though your position. She even downgraded her own work. She said, oh, I just work at this one place. It's like, look, my point is, you asked me for things I liked about you, and I said them. You don't have to agree with them. I could say I like you because you're a hoe. So a lot of chicks would probably not like that characterization of themselves, but it would still be what the fact would be that I'm stating what I find attractive. So, it's different from what you might find attractive about yourself. But anyways, this same person before this call, I just want to mention this. And during this call says that I am physically attractive, that I'm smart, I'm funny. She's laughed at things I've said in each call before this, about two or three of them at this point, 3 or 4 of them. It's somewhere between 3 and 4. So when that happens, I get the, I guess, initiative to, pop the question. And, she says no. I get kind of annoyed, and I don't, curse her out and just go, yeah, chicks doing as they usually do. What else is new? There are only 3 things that you can be sure of in life. Taxes, bills, and chicks, rejecting you over and over, no matter what you do. But she advocates for us to continue speaking because I told her I hate the friend zone. I said, the other thing is that during this call, she says that because she was previously in a romantic relationship with this guy for I think a year, and she says I'm more attractive than he is. That I just compares me very favorably, and I'm like, do you not get how insulting it is for the person that you think is more attractive, physically, all that stuff, to be regulated to being your friend, but then the guy that you hate so much was able to live with you and, have this little utopia. Like, what the hell? But again, that's why I said I live in the Twilight Zone. So I basically say, you know what? I'm going to go with this because during the call, she mentions that she doesn't feel it possibly yet. So she basically leaves the door open for things to change at some other point. I can always speak to other broads. And I've mentioned this before that if one of them doesn't commit, I say, hey, it's all fair game. I've seen these chicks talk to 20 or 30 dudes at once. I figure I can talk to 5 or 6 of them. So after this call is over, and I'm disappointed because I just spent 3 hours with this person and been, frustrated by things going the way they did. I continue to speak to her. Now, again, at the end of this call, in the last maybe half hour of it, she advocates for me to keep talking to her platonically. Do you want to know how many days it took for her to change her mind? I can count them on 2 hands. In less than 2 weeks, she went from, I think we should still speak to each other because we have a lot in common and we both, at least platonically like each other. Yeah. She went from that to, I think you resent me for my decision not to date you, so maybe we just shouldn't talk anymore. But I want to also mention, so, and someone might be inclined to say, "Oh, you probably screwed it up between then." Not really. But look, I want to mention one thing before we go further. That part where I mentioned the multiple things I like about her is eerily aggravating because when I speak to her the final time, which is 9 days later, she basically says, "I don't understand how these were her own words, a nice, intelligent, funny person like you would want to get with," and then she calls herself addict and all these different terms. And I'm looking at my computer screen, and I said to her, "We just had, not even 2 weeks ago, me run down what I found attractive about you, and you laughed at it, you tried to argue against it, but you can't have me explain to you what I find attractive about you and then ask me why I would want to be with you and then not have me subscribe to the belief that you are someone who has selective hearing at best, early dementia at worst." I mean, that's why I say a lot of times when I speak, it's like I'm just pouring air into the sky because people don't listen. Even people who are in a one-on-one call with you, they don't listen or pay any attention. So we have another call. It's fairly decent, nothing particularly special about it. But in the call after that, which coincides with the day I got a new cell phone after, and I actually mentioned this a couple of streams, my phone was acting up. She basically went, because I said, "I'm not going to go to your state if you don't have any romantic interest. I'm not going to go to some state that's across the other side of the US just for a hug. Screw that." Her response is, "I don't know how you'd be able to get down here." Now, she's saying this in reference to what she perceives as my lack of an employment, and then accuses me of not being employed. And that's fine. People can think whatever they want. But the thing that gets me is I ask her, "Why do you think that?" And she says, "quote unquote, you make YouTube videos all day." I do 3 streams a week, and they're all usually 30 minutes to an hour. So let's give her now. Just before we continue, there are 168 hours in a week. I know this because I calculated. I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. I know 24/7, and that's about it. So 24 times 7 is 168. Let's pretend. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say every day between Saturday and Monday when I stream, all hour long, okay? And because I mentioned before that I record stuff on Saturday and then put it up between Tuesday and Friday for daily content, but it's not actually me recording every day. So let's say that it takes another hour to record all of that stuff. I would still have 164 hours to do other things. Hell, if we subtract 8 hours from basically, I spend more time sleeping than I do actually making any content on here. But I told her I was very offended by this. She apologizes. She, says, "Oh, I didn't mean to offend you," and I wasn't really, angry, like, "Oh my God, how could you say?" And I never felt, when I look at a lot of my messages I had with the Lady Lacking Logic, I can remember being so frustrated with her, but I never became upset with the Dear John letter writer until the end. That was when things just took a turn for the worse. Let's get the point that it was just a nice interaction, and it's we're at the part of where it ends. So we scheduled to have a call. Her team is playing. I don't really pay attention to football, so you'll have to forgive me for not being able to remember which team it is. But it's not the team of her home state, and there's a time zone difference. And I said, "All right, fine, I'll wait." So I wait. It's kind of been a little bit of a frustrating day, but I'm not going to take that on her. Now, between the two times that we spoke, between the last time we spoke and the second to last time, which was decent, other than her assuming what she assumed about me. And I should also point out that, and I'll bring this up later, but between these interactions, we have a text exchange, which I'm going to try to put on screen uh, and speak as I read it. Okay, so I said, I hope you don't cancel on me on Monday. I would be very disappointed. Also, do you want pictures? I won't. I'll try to be in a better mood. I was kind of depressed today. Pictures of what? Myself. Yeah, sure. If you want to, send some. I'll only send if you want. I don't want to burden you with my imagery, which is meant to be a joke. She laughs. Well, I mean, I've already seen it. So, all right, never mind. I say, third person doesn't think I'm pretty enough to sustain her intent with new images. She laughs at the inches. I said you could send them, but you lack the enthusiasm of seeing images of a man you said you found attractive. I'm hurt. Okay, so this is relevant because at no point, like, her responses, yeah, sure, if you want to, send some. I said you could send them. If you take those responses and you line them up with her tone when I mention the pictures, I say, I didn't know you could get HIV from seeing pictures of me. It's like two different people, because she's kind of just, okay, oh yeah, sure, whatever, picture, well, yeah. And then over the phone, sending pictures is what you do when you're like with someone. And I told her, you sent me images before that. Like, what? I didn't see a difference. And I could understand if someone would say, maybe you thought they were, I don't know, scantily clad or nude or lewd, but it's just a regular picture. As far as I had intended, and as far as the stuff she had sent. So I didn't think it was a big deal, but she changed her tone. From the messages, it's, yeah, sure, whatever, to in the call, this is something that people who are in romances do. Now, in this call, she mentions that she believes I resent her for her choice to not be romantically involved. First, she says I resent her, which I tell her is preposterous, because why would I go out of my way to speak as often as I could to someone I resented? It makes no sense, right? So she has to clarify. And she starts talking about, maybe we should stop speaking to each other, and I don't think this will work out. Like, but we've talked from what I've seen on your part enjoyably, in an enjoyable manner for well over a week. And she kind of starts to back off on what she's saying. Like, oh, the majority of our conversations have been about you and your women problems. Like, no, that's not true. We spoke about other things. She goes, oh yeah, that's true. It's like, okay, so what are you talking about? Well, me speaking to you has been hurting you. Like, I'm hurt because one chick online turned me down. One out of a billion chicks that would probably do the exact same thing in a heartbeat. That's really what's going to just drive me and eat away at my soul. Like, are you kidding me? But she sticks to her guns on this. And toward the end, she relents. She goes, you know what? We'll have a call this upcoming Thursday. So in 3 days at that point. Now, this call doesn't come. I actually messaged her and said, hey, we were supposed to have a call. Why didn't it happen? And the call that we had, the last one, was really disappointing because we usually spoke for at least an hour, and it was only half an hour because someone else was called. Basically, she tried to pretend she was this really popular person who had 90, all these chicks are like miniature celebrities. They have 90 million people calling them. Oh, my friend is calling me and she's so depressed, and if she doesn't speak to me, I'm her hero and I've got to talk to her and whatever, just, but within minutes of this call ending, within minutes of it, and you can actually see, no, it doesn't have the time on it, but the call basically ends at my time at 9 o'clock, minutes after it ends. And during the call, she was drunk. I should also mention this. That's why she gets away with this initially. She says, clearly you cannot take a hint, sadly. I tried to let you down easily so I didn't hurt your fragile ego, but it's not working. So I'm going to spell it out for you. F off, you aren't entitled to anything from me. You're a disgusting boy, and I'm never speaking to you again. Try to contact me or my friends again. I blank dare you. Okay, so when I first see this message, I'm looking at the screen just baffled because you just scheduled to have another call with me. I've never interacted with any of the people that you're friends with, and now you're sending me this crazy thing. But I remember that she is drunk, so I say, you know what? I'm gonna see how this plays out over the next couple of days. Um, Now you see the screenshot for it in that message because she deleted the initial message. She, got rid of it, scrubbed it, which means she woke up, saw that she sent something she probably didn't mean to send, and then decided to get rid of it. So I said, I've read what you wrote to me. I've tried to be very nice and treat you with respect. I don't understand why you would leave such a hateful response minutes after scheduling to speak to me on Thursday. Um, I leave her because I'm on her friends list even after she writes this crazy nonsense. But I leave her alone. So you know what? We're gonna wait a few days. We're gonna see if she has enough common sense to explain herself. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here. I just want to know, why did you send this? You could say, oh, it was a mistake. I didn't know it was you. Simple as that. But she decides to not say anything ever. And I leave her on this friends list up until, if that was sent on a Monday and I was at the motel, that was probably about maybe 5 days. Plenty of time to just say, oops. So I unfriend her, and that's how we got here. I should also mention that she, during the second to last call, tried to depict herself as not being attracted to people anymore because of how her romance with this guy had ended. And then, she flipped it and said, oh, well, I guess I just don't like men anymore because me and my friend like to, get down. I don't have a problem with people that are both ways or whatever, just what it doesn't matter to me. But she caught herself she got caught in her own lie. She first says, I'm done screwing people. Oh, wait, I had a guy I would screw that I would just call and have come up. I've stopped calling him, but then me and my best friend still screw. And she tries to say, oh, yeah, if you're my best friend, that's only accept. No, you said men, meaning that as long as it's got that triangle, you're going to come and get it, or, be susceptible to having it. But listen, I'm trying to keep a pleasant tone, and it's trying to, attempt to have something that's upbeat. I am disappointed because a lot of times when you are of the male variety, you have people who say, you're going to meet the one and you're not even going to realize it. So, well, if I meet someone that I think is physically attractive, which she was to me, is nice to talk to, which she was, and I just have a very pleasant feeling when being around and don't feel a need to try and pretend to be someone else, and that person indicates some basic attraction. Like you can't say you think this person's attractive for how they look, for how they speak, for their humor, and then say I'm not interested in you, and they're not supposed to, put a WTF sign above. Like, this is why I said talking to chicks it's such a, like, you will literally lose your mind trying to figure these people out because they do things that don't make sense to anyone with common sense. I have never once met a woman that I thought those three things of and not gone after unless that person was confirmed to be with someone, because I don't try to get, do any love triangle trash. It's just the most mind-boggling thing. And, I am aware of my mortality. I've mentioned before that I don't have some belief that I'm going to live forever. That's why I try to make the most of the time I have. And it really bothers me to keep having to start over, chick after chick, woman after woman, woman after woman. You talk to them, they give you some lip service. Oh, I think your videos are so good. Oh, I think you're such a good artist. Oh, I think you're so smart. Oh, I think you're so. I mean, like, when do we just get to a point where someone says, hey, I've had the same continued lack of success with the other gender because they can't make up their mind. Let's go meet and screw, or go on a date or whatever. And I even said this to her. I said, you know, you are so adverse to getting with a guy that you will say all this positive stuff about, and you don't think that's weird? People don't look and say, what the heck? Like, I don't have any, people like to try to claim I'm a liar, but I have no text proof of the stuff she said. I can put up here. So, you will have to take my word for it. But, I really thought when I heard all that good stuff, because it's not something you hear very often. No one's really that upfront with, and it's ironic in an era where people are supposedly so willing to say how many people they've slept with and, done this and that with. It's still pretty rare to have someone, especially abroad, go up and say, you're this to me, you're that to me, all this good stuff, right? Even in an era like that, they still can't make up their mind. It's like me, I realized I must have, when I made the first romance video I did in 2015, I must have been ahead of my time, because I always knew what I wanted. I wanted to get with a chick, stay with them for a couple of years, have a kid, after getting married, and then, it would be done. Try to support that person in their career. Make decisions together. These are not complicated things, but they're not allowed to happen, because when you've got a group of people who can't make up their mind, you're screwed. And I just wish that a lot of my detractors, and I always said I can accept differences of opinion, right? So there are a lot of men who would go out and say, oh yeah, you got to act this way and a woman will come to you. I don't agree with that, because I've seen poor dudes get with chicks. I've seen men that other chicks have said are ugly, have kids, and do all basically, there are too many variables for me to believe something like that, that like any of that stuff actually is a guarantee that you'll get with someone. It might help, but it still doesn't particularly spell out ultimate success no matter what. But look, I have enough wherewithal to accept that there are people who believe that stuff and just leave them alone. I don't watch their content. I don't try to argue, debate with them. And it's like, I right off of ending my interactions with the Lady Lack and Logic, I meet this person who, like, I just think is perfect. Even if I say I don't like that, she did drugs, legal stuff, obviously. I don't like the fact that she smoked, that she drank. These things don't disqualify someone from me, because when you're the man, you have to accept people for who they are and be this like compassionate character who at the same time is Superman. You have to be the richer person. You have to look better than they do. You have to earn more. I know I'm restating the same thing, but you get the point that when is there going to be a chick who has to give anything at all? That's the true question for this. I met someone that I could theoretically see as the one, and they basically hung me out to dry. Not because I did something to them, not because I blew it, but because they took an opportunity and squandered it. I am very proud of the fact that I approached these chicks formerly, and with every single one of them that I thought looked good, and there were a lot of them, I always tried to take it a step further. If they said no, hey, they screwed it up.